right, welcome everybody to the Real Estate Agent Mastermind podcast. I'm your host, Tom Caffarella, and I've got a very special guest on here, Kevin Vitali. Is that how you pronounce it?
Correct.
Awesome. Not too hard. I've definitely had some harder ones before. So what's going on today? Anything good?
Not much. I actually literally had to run out and we did some drone photography of a listing and literally got back about 5 minutes before the podcast.
Nice. So I've never used drones before for the photography. How do you like that so far?
Yeah. So you have to be licensed to fly it commercially. That's the first thing I need to say.
And what defines it as commercially?
If you're making money. So if you're
Okay.
a real estate agent and you're flying a drone, you are making money with it. So you need to have a license. So don't run out and do drones without you. It's an unmanned license. It's basically ground school. It's kind of hard. So my business partner got the license and we were both out this morning.
Oh
So,
man, I had no idea that you would need that.
yeah, no, people are getting in trouble for not having the licenses. I mean, you have a tail number and everything, just like you do if you're flying a plane.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
And you feel like that's been helping you to market effectively?
You know, we just started it. We've had a couple listings right now. Some of the still shots when they're pretty amazing that what you can get. You know, if you've got a nice piece of property, you can highlight it right on the MLS with the still photos, upload a quick YouTube video. I'm pretty excited about it. So far, we haven't seen huge results from it, but we're just starting it.
Well, definitely we're going to be hitting on some of the unique ways that you market properties, but why don't you give our guests a little bit of background about how you got into real estate and, you know, where you're kind of at today?
Okay, well, I started my career as not a real estate photographer, a commercial photographer. So I had a big studio, advertising, all that. I did that for many years. Got married, decided wasn't a great way to have a family, so I decided to open a restaurant. Ran that and sold that after several years, and then got into
Where was that located?
North Reading.
Okay, good deal.
North Reading. Yep. So it's actually still there. I sold it in 2001 and got into real estate in 2002.
So the restaurant is still operating. Can you share the name or?
It's Beyond Bagels. It was a cafe.
Nice.
I haven't been there in probably 10 years, but every time I drive by, it still exists.
Awesome. Yeah, no, because everyone, you know, all of our listeners are local. So just to give, you know, the local flavor there. So when you got into real estate in 2002, where did you start your career?
I started with Exit and never left.
Wow. You don't see that too often.
So it was kind of interesting. I was actually at my church doing a career development thing. One of the members of the church was a human resources guy, and he was helping people transition into new jobs and bump up their resumes. And, you know, I talked about this is something I'm interested in. He said, talk to this gentleman, Brian. Brian owns a mortgage company, a real estate company, and a construction company.
Yeah.
So I kind of just went over to Brian and never left.
So now, was this the point after you already sold your business or did this?
I'd already sold my business.
Oh, man. So what was the reason that you sold the business in the first place?
You know, so peak year was, you know, 1999, 2000. Unemployment was around 2%. I think peak I had about 43 employees, and it was just killing me. It was killing me.
Yeah, definitely food is not an easy business.
It was a high volume business. I doubt they do anywhere near the gross I was doing back then. It was well over $1 million for, believe it or not, a bagel shop, coffee shop, cafe. But it was just a lot of work, and the work was very monotonous. It's like every day it's the same thing. You know, it's like Groundhog Day, the movie.
Yep.
Go in, do the same things. And, you know, I was trying to grow it, but I could never just get a manager in there. And quality control was just, that's what made me successful, was quality control.
Yeah. So you sold it. You said, I got to get out of this. And at that point, you were kind of just weighing your options.
Yep.
Trying to figure out what makes sense.
Yep.
So you got into real estate. You got signed up with Exit. I know for most agents, the first, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, first year is the toughest part. How did you survive that first year?
Um, I did well with the sale of the store, so I did not have financial concerns, and quite frankly, I did six figures my first year.
Well, that's awesome. So tell us a little bit about that because I know a lot of people, especially in their first year, getting out of the gate is extremely difficult.
I think it's harder now than it was back then. Back then, I embraced the internet, and the internet was low-hanging fruit. This was before Zillow was out there and Trulia, and you just had to show up to the game on the internet to be successful.
So what were you doing though? Like, I mean,
I had a
today,
website. I had a website, and it was very easy to rank for keywords. Tewksbury real estate would have been an easy. Well, back then we were in Andover. Andover real estate was very easy to rank for. Now, yeah, I mean, it's a battle. So the internet is a different game these days. Not that I still make a lot of my money from the internet, but it's a lot more difficult now than it was 15 years ago.
so in year one, when you made 6 figures, what percentage of your business came from the online stuff? If you had to guess, I mean, we don't
60
need,
to 70%.
wow,
And to be fair, I was also doing mortgages at the same time because we had a mortgage company. So I was financing all of my buyers.
good deal. So you got past kind of year one. How have things changed from your first year in business up until today?
Well, I would say, I'm still, so the past several years, during the downtime, I did a ton of short sales,
Hmm.
um, put a lot of eggs in that short sale basket. And to be honest with you, I'm recovering from that now. Those aren't people that are coming back in referrals and selling houses and stuff. So I kind of hurt myself by 90% of my business was short sales from 2007 to, as recently as 2014, 15.
Yeah, during that market though, I mean, there wasn't a lot of, I mean, you had to go short sale in that market, right?
But very successful with the short sales. Yep.
Yes.
I'm still doing them. I still have a few.
So, not to go too far off track, but how far away do you think we are again from that coming back full force?
I don't think we're very close.
Really?
No, no. So I guess if you had to look at things, and there's a difference. Prices are ridiculous. They're going up too fast.
Yep.
I'm hoping the market corrects itself. And the difference is now is the low inventory. We saw inventory climbing in 2005, 2006, 2007. Um, and I think the difference is the low inventory is created by, I believe, the baby boomers not retiring as quickly as they should.
Hmm.
A lot of them that I talk to are hanging on an extra 5, 10 years to build up their stock portfolios and things like that. So I believe that's what's creating the low inventory.
Hmm.
Whether that's true or not, I don't know. It's just a guess. I've read a few articles on it, and it seems to support that.
Hmm.
So the difference is we have very low inventory. In 2005, inventory was climbing. I'm starting to see markets soften a little bit right now, and hopefully we can come back to a more balanced market so we don't have that crash.
We're definitely seeing a little bit more balance because we're seeing stuff go on the market, and not that we don't get offers and not that we don't get over asking in a lot of cases, but instead of there being 10 or 15 offers, there might be 5 or 6 offers. So it's definitely we've definitely, and it could be a temporary thing. I mean, as we're talking, it's October, and I'm kind of referencing August and September, which kind of tend to be a little bit slower overall anyways, but that's kind of,
I see market times climbing a little bit, and I've noticed inventories climbing. I mean, we're talking about, like, say in Tewksbury, at the beginning of the year, there was as little as 4 or 5 condos on the market. Now we have 13.
yeah,
Traditionally, we run 20 to 30.
yeah.
If you look over a period of time, so I'm just seeing inventory starting to climb a little bit. It's kind of a gut feeling more than anything.
Well, I think when you talk about how the market changes, you can make educated guesses, but you don't know. No one can say 100% when things are going to change. So it's more or less, we know that we're growing too fast. The prices are getting too high, but when they start to correct is the harder thing to predict. So if you did have to put a number on it, are you thinking 2 or 3 years out, or even maybe potentially further than that?
I think potentially further.
Yeah. So essentially, getting your short sale business ramped back up is not on your agenda anytime soon.
If that's what needs to be done, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do them with my eyes closed.
Yeah. So what are you doing, in 2017? What's your kind of bread and butter for marketing to get clients and getting in front of people and stuff like that?
So a lot of what I'm doing is I've put I think I got away from things during the short sale period,
Yep.
and I kind of got behind on the internet, and I'm working on that now. This year was so it's almost been a year to the day. I made a real commitment to the internet, which was so what I do is I do one major blog post a week. Major
Yep.
blog post being 1,000 to 2,000 words.
Hmm.
Uh, I come out every Monday with that, and there's kind of a little bit of a formula I follow. I've been writing blog content for years and years and years. What I'm doing now is a little bit different. I'm being a little bit more consistent, but I'm paying attention to content marketing more. For example, I just posted an article last week. What makes a house compelling?
Hmm.
Uh, and I had before I got on, I looked. I had 1,400 hits on that article in
Mm.
uh, just over a week.
So on
Uh,
something like that, where you're kind of doing a broad topic, the 1,400 hits, are they national or are they concentrated more locally? How
they're
does that
not.
work?
They're all over the place.
Yep.
You can do some targeted, and it pays to do some targeted, very localized blog posts.
Yep.
No, it's volume. Traffic is traffic, but what I'm finding is my keywords are getting picked up and things like that. Uh,
Okay. So say on an article like that where you're trying to get a bunch of readers, like what is your end game for that? It's getting picked up for some keywords that are localized or
well, I've picked up a bunch of listings this year, primarily from my internet exposure. Some of that's blogs, some of it's social media, but people when they read something, they tend to believe it
yep.
versus, if I'm a seller and you're trying to tell me I need a price drop because blah, 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 I'm like, yeah, yeah, he just wants his commission. If you read it ahead of time, it sinks in and it processes it and it's believable. So I've picked up a bunch of listings this year just from the internet. By
And
writing quality content about, how do you list your home? How do you price your home? Various topics.
and then so someone will get online, they'll search for a key phrase, they'll pick up your article, and then you've got all your call to action, all of your contact information and everything there, and then they would reach out to you directly.
Correct.
So
Correct.
obviously this is a marketing strategy that's kind of cool because it doesn't cost you a lot of money to do this, right?
Wrong.
Wrong. Okay, tell me
It
about
doesn't
that.
cost a lot of money, but I actually host my own WordPress site,
Yep.
few $100s a month, pay for my IDX, few $100s a month. Some of the content promotion that I do, few $100s a month. You're not going to do this with a canned website from you need a WordPress website. Over the years, I used templated websites, got very frustrated. Someone would be on top of the game, they'd be the best in the business, then they'd get bought out and they go downhill. And then my information is held hostage. So
Yep.
it is pretty expensive to host a WordPress site. And when we talk about hosting, you need to look at the speed that your site loads. And yeah, you could host a WordPress site for $10 a month, but it's not going to have the speed that you need to keep people on your site.
Well,
Um,
let's talk about ROI so the listeners can kind of get a better understanding of like how this would work for, a traditional real estate agent. So, how much do you think you spent in a year money-wise to keep the blog up and running?
oh God, I probably couldn't tell you. I mean, I know I can easily spend $20,000 a year on the internet, but that would roll in, advertising listings and things like that as well, not just the blog.
Do you
So
know roughly what it would break out to? Is it like half or anything? Do you have any sort of idea?
I would say just to run the base blog and website is costing me probably $400 to $500 a month.
Okay, so not too crazy. I mean, obviously it's an investment, but you're spending $5,000, let's just say on average per year. How many listings do you think you get directly from that marketing effort? If you had to just
I
ballpark it.
mean, I've noticed this year I've gotten 5 listings just from the internet this year.
Right. So let's say that the average listing is worth $5,000 in your pocket, and that's probably conservative, right? So you're basically five timesing your money on blogging, essentially.
Yes, yes.
Something like that, roughly speaking. And it's something, so obviously
Don't,
there's
don't
the,
forget the buyers come in as well, too. It's much easier to capture a buyer on the internet, so the buyers come in as well.
yep. So so you're basically five timesing on blogging. How many hours a week are you spending on it?
I spend about 20 minutes to an hour a day, and we need to come back to this because blogging is only a small piece, but we'll talk
Yep.
about content marketing afterwards because that's
Yes.
where you can't have one without the other. Um, and so I spend about 20 minutes to an hour promoting content in the website and things like that a day. As far as writing the article, that's a good 4 to 6 hours, I would say,
Hmm.
on that. Um, Along with that, so there's a couple things that I write the article.
Yep.
Uh, One of the things that I've picked up on that is key is when I write an article, I reference a lot of the top influencers articles in the business. There's lists out there of the top 100 influencers on real estate on social media.
Hmm.
Um, People like Anita Clark down in Georgia. There's a gentleman, Xavier DeBuck, actually in South Africa, who's really strong on the internet. Bill Gassett here in our own state. Um, so I reference related articles at the end or in the article, like so at the end, say, what makes a house compelling. I'll link to related articles like you know pricing your home or staging your home or preparing your home from these people,
Yep.
uh, and the more the better. And then what happens is they pick it up and they advertise it on social media for you. And
Hmm.
that's where it really comes. So I get on Google Plus, you know, write a summary about my article. I tag the people that I've referenced in the article, and then they pick it up and then they share it, and it's very exponential. Excuse me. So when we talk about blogging, that's just a small piece. Content marketing is equally as important. If nobody can find it, then it doesn't do you any good.
Mm.
And then things like, I can't tell you, I'm getting people now. The other thing I'd like to say about the internet, Tom, is it's a long game. It's not a short game. You can't
Hmm.
write one article today and think people are going to flood it in. You need to be consistent over years for it to really, really become effective. You can't just come in and out of it. It's a long game. So
Yep.
if you're a new agent, you got to commit to doing it. You can't just write one article and everything's going to be all right.
So say that a new agent comes, they meet with you, Kevin, they say, I do want to do this. I understand that it takes a while to get going. What would a good rough time commitment be per week in order to be effective over the course of their career?
You're talking 10 to 12 hours a week on internet uh, marketing and promotion, including the blog and content marketing. That means, Google Plus, LinkedIn. Believe it or not, Pinterest, I can get a ton of traffic from Pinterest. Um,
Hmm.
One of the other things when I write the article, we talked about including some of the top social influencers.
Hmm.
Um, Also, I spend a lot of time on the blog graphics because, again, that's what gets people interested on social media
Hmm.
is the blog graphics. So there's some time spent on that as well, pulling a compelling interest, uh, a compelling, I'm sorry, photo or graphic that goes along with it that you're posting on Pinterest that make people want to see it. Believe it or not, I don't have a ton of followers on Pinterest, but a lot of traffic comes from Pinterest. Don't discount it.
Yeah, well, Facebook is huge. I mean, everybody's on Facebook all day long, and the key thing when you're running anything on Facebook, whether it's just a organic post or a post that you're boosting or a paid ad, you got to stop them. So there's going to be the pattern interrupt because people aren't really necessarily going on Facebook to read an article, or they're not necessarily going on Facebook to see an ad or to click on an ad. So they're going on there to see, what their sister's kitten is doing today, or their family members or whatever. So you have to stop them. So like you mentioned on the graphics is actually the most important thing when it comes to getting traffic on Facebook. So if you're running an ad and it's a great ad and the copy is good, but the picture doesn't stop that person from interrupting what they're doing when they're scrolling through their feed, it won't get any action on it. So
I did a article. I actually did two articles on Active Rain. They kind of went hand in hand, and the title of the article was, "Are you getting graphic with your blog posts?" And
mhm.
in there is a woman looking at her phone and with a shock on her face, and I got tons of hits on that article, tons of hits.
Yeah, I read something that was interesting on that. Basically, it was, I'm trying to think of who the author was, but they were basically saying like you have to kind of like think about it like the National Enquirer in terms of like what the
Yes.
in terms of what the National Enquirer does, right? So when you're checking out, you're at a food master, or you're at wherever, getting your food, and you're in the aisle, you're basically not there to be looking for a newspaper or a magazine. But what they do is they put something up that's so, salacious and interesting that it's like it stops what you're doing. And Facebook is the exact same way. And if you don't basically do that, you're going to get ignored because people are marketed to so much today. We have messages coming at us all over the place. So if it doesn't get them to stop what they're doing, it's not effective. So you talked about obviously blogging in terms of just like that's the content, but then the content marketing, you're just talking about like where you're pushing the content, right?
To some degree, yes. So the biggies: Facebook, Google Plus, LinkedIn, Pinterest. Did I miss any? Instagram. I don't do a lot on Instagram. I'm just starting up Instagram. So what I found is I worked it in pieces, and so I just started with Facebook. Then
Yep.
once I got Facebook down, I added Google Plus, and then I added, and I just kind of work in until I get a flow going. So I try to post once a day, at least, on all of these things, and things like TweetDeck, Hootsuite, that can help you. And I also have subscriptions to Viral Content B, um, Creative. I can't remember the name of Creative Collaborative. They're paid subscriptions that help get my articles out there as well, and I post on them and so on and so forth.
Now,
The
do you do all of this manual process of kind of promoting your stuff yourself?
Yes,
Have
yep.
you ever looked into having somebody else do that for you, just at a really low level cost?
I've thought about that. Yes, I'm thinking about that now because it is getting, as I tag others in blog posts, they tag back. And, I'm always trying to. So, one of the things about social media where I think a lot of agents make mistakes, nobody cares about your listings. I,
No.
I mean, nobody cares about your list. You need to give them content, what gets your house sold fast, or, they want information. They don't want to hear about your latest listing. So you want to give them something to sink their teeth into, and it's content. And so when someone tags me, say they tag one of my articles, I try to respond back. And social media and this is where a lot of agents make a mistake. And I made the mistake for a lot of years, until I kind of changed my mindset. It's like a party. You're going to be the party pooper, or you're going to be the life of the party.
Mhm.
You can show up and do nothing, and if you're just liking things and posting your listings, you're not going to get very far. It's when you start interacting with people that makes a difference. So someone writes an article about, um, that includes a reference to one of my articles. I get on, I like it, but then I also make a relevant comment. Thanks for sharing my article. Such and such is so important when you're marketing your home. I'm glad you pointed that out. It's about interaction, and that's where a lot of agents tend to fall down, is they don't interact. They're not being social.
Hmm. So in terms of like, like leveraging your time on this type of stuff, like is some of what percentage of the stuff that you do, you're talking about 10 or 12 hours a week, what amount of those hours could somebody else be doing it? Like if you had somebody that, you could get trained up, like how many of those hours could you have someone else do?
Um, a lot of it. I need to write the article, I believe. I don't think I can toss that off, but
No.
a lot of the, thanks for sharing my post, blah 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 blah. There needs to be, someone needs to have a little bit of knowledge and actually read the post so they can, or just skim the post so you can, make a comment that's relevant to the post. But a lot of that I could give half away maybe,
Yeah.
and
So
I've been thinking about that.
yeah, I would definitely implore you to do that because I think, it's something I always get caught up in. I mean, you get caught up in a lot of the doing stuff, and it, it's like if someone else can do it, especially at a low level. I mean, you could definitely get someone to do that, and it doesn't even have to be anyone local. You could have a virtual assistant that's doing that type of
Correct.
stuff all day long. So,
That is
um,
something I've been thinking about for sure.
so what I would do is, are you familiar with the program Screencast-O-Matic?
No.
It's basically just a way to capture your screen. And what you can do is just like we're talking right now, you can basically talk and walk somebody through the actual steps that you're doing. And it's really important if you're going to have someone do it virtually because they really need to see exactly step by step what you're doing. And it makes it pretty easy to kind of outsource a lot of this stuff. So I would start out with something really, really basic, like something that can't get screwed up, and then kind of like add the pieces on from there. And I think you could get a lot of this work done very, very cheaply. And let's say instead of you writing one article and then spending a lot of time promoting it, would writing two articles get you double the results, do you think, or no?
It definitely helps. If I could do every day, I would. It would definitely help quite a bit. Um, but one
Because
of the things
that's probably where your talent is more, right?
I think I write like a third grader, but I mean, people sometimes get so stuck in doing everything so perfect, you'll never get off the bench. You just
Well,
got to.
yeah, it's not a grammar contest, right? It's like, are you providing people with content that they want? People don't
Correct.
care. People don't care if you're a good writer. I mean,
Oh well,
people.
believe me, the grammar police are out there.
Oh yeah, but I mean that's just people trolling. I mean, people are always going to comment. You do anything and you put it publicly, you're going to get detractors. I mean, there's just no two ways around it. But
Some of the other things that I do that when you talk about content marketing, so
yeah,
I have my money site that I want the people to go to, but then I use sites like Active Rain, LinkedIn Pulse to write smaller supporting articles pointing back to the money site. That's something else I do during the week.
hmm,
Uh, when I write an article, and that increases the SEO on that topic.
nice. So talk a little bit more about. So you had mentioned. I'm just trying to get some of the notes here. So yeah, doing presentations for sellers, and you feel like that's a big component of your business.
Yeah. So when I was maybe a year or two into the business, I was a little frustrated because I was not nailing all my listing presentations. Actually, I was probably getting about 50% of them. Um, and so I really sat down and I really thought about it. And the first thing that I came up with, and it seems so obvious, but I didn't really get it at the time. What's the product? And when it comes to listing the home, you know, I think the first initial reaction is real estate's the product. No, it's not. I'm the product. What am I
Hmm.
going to do to sell your home? So that was the first thing I had to realize is what makes me, and what I was sitting there thinking, Tom, was everybody's in the MLS. And let's face it, you do a good job with the MLS, you can sell a home.
Hmm.
There's some other things you can add to it, but if you do a good job with the MLS, I'm like, so how am I different? So one of the things that I did do, and I do have a sample here, is
Awesome.
I put together a marketing plan. I don't know if you can see that.
I can see
Um,
it. Perfect. Yeah.
okay, so let me back up a little bit, and so there's about 80 pages in that now. It's in a hardbound cover.
Yep.
Uh, Literally, if I get a phone call, I just pick it up. I don't even worry about talking about pricing or anything. I go out and talk to the homeowner about it really doesn't matter what the price is. It's picking the right agent to market your home. Not only did I put that together, I put an outline together. I had a graphic designer professionally design it for me, so it's one cohesive piece all the way through. Type styles are the same. There's a design to it, so it's one piece. When you're talking about selling a home, you're talking about selling a 300, 500, $800,000 home, and we're going out with photocopy paper, with our listing presentations and things like
Hmm.
that. So, coming from an advertising background, I've worked on like stereo speakers. It costs $20 just to put a brochure together for one of these speakers on high end, and so it's like something's a little wrong here when we're just printing stuff out on photocopier paper.
Why do you think that is? Do you think it's just laziness, or what do you think the deal is with that? Because I see that all the time too.
Um, I think that people just don't know any better.
Mm,
I actually I actually think the real estate model is kind of archaic these days.
mm.
Um, you have 20 people in an office. They're all trying to duplicate the same process and wear a bunch of hats. And maybe teams address that a little bit. But I think something's going to change in the next 10 years in real estate. Because
I've seen teams make a big change in that because I think that the big thing with teams is that you get, typically speaking, one person doing one role. And I think the problem with a lot of agents is that they run around, like you mentioned, they're juggling 100 different things. The last thing they're thinking about is, man, should this be photocopied or should this be really put together? Because they're running out probably last minute to get to that appointment. Then after that appointment's over, they're running to try to make their phone calls on the appraisal that's happening the next day or an inspection or something like that. And it's like a lot of things get done kind of like, I don't want to say poorly, but they get done average. And what I've seen the teams do, and I've seen some really good teams make huge strides with this, is that everything across the board is done pretty well. Not every team obviously is good, but I've seen this a lot with teams. And it's why I think that teams are becoming more and more popular now because they're just making more money as a unit.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, you've got 20 people all trying to do the same thing for themselves, where, maybe a concerted effort would be like my marketing plan. Anybody that comes into my office, I make a marketing plan for them. Done. Boom, boom, done. So everybody doesn't have to recreate the wheel. And that's what a lot of agents do. They're recreating the wheel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
So when you go out there, so is that something that's not a giveaway, right? That looks like an expensive piece.
it's not that expensive. I don't leave it, but sometimes I do. You're talking the cover. I actually hard bind it myself.
Hmm.
I have a binder that costs about $500. So basically, you buy the different hardcovers here. What do we
Hmm.
got? Buy the different hardcovers in different thicknesses, and then you put the paper in there, and it heats it up. There's a glue in the spine and holds it together. Um, and so I just make them here. Use a high quality paper, high quality printer. So even when it comes to paper, I don't use photocopier paper. I actually have reams of high quality paper that I buy where the images pop, and there's some substance to the paper.
So the big cost was just the upfront, and it wasn't a crazy
It
cost. So
probably took me a year and a half to put the initial uh, concept together. It really took me that long. Uh,
nice.
so everything is broken down. Basically, I have it broken down into three pieces. Basically, there's I call it the three P's. You've got preparation of your home. What are you willing to do to prepare your home? Which covers a wide gamut of things. Pricing your home. Getting the price right on your home, and then presentation, which is where we step in and take quality photographs and so on and so forth. So it's broken down into the three P's of what's going on. What I find is usually my presentation is far better than everybody. I mean, people are just usually wowed at the end of it, and quite frankly, it's also just it's a track to run on. I just look at a page and I know that okay, this is what I need to talk about.
Hmm.
Um, I hate to use the word scripts, but every page does have a little script to it.
Yeah.
Whether it's word to word verbatim, no, but like I get to a page and I talk about your home is going to be competing with other homes, and sellers don't really think about that until you say it. You're competing with other homes. Your home needs to stand out. So, every page has kind of an informal script to it.
Yeah, I agree with you that, I mean, I'm not one to really script like that, but I think one thing that we always teach within our brokerage is that you've got to follow a sales process. And you've got to hit on all those major key points. If there's something that you need to hit on and you don't hit on it, and then you go for the close and you're not ready to go for the close, you're not going to get it. So you've got to follow it the right way. And I think if you have something that can kind of cue you up like that, that's really good. Obviously, like you said, your material backwards and forwards, so you can go into detail or you can go a little bit off topic, and it's not going to completely throw you off.
There's one section I have in here, and I've been lucky. I don't know if you can see that. So
Yep.
I have a bunch of pages comparing expired listings I've picked up or listings that were on the market at the same time. The one I just showed you are two identical condos on the market at the same time. I sold mine for $15,000 more in half the time. And I have it. I mean, it's data that's right out of the MLS. And, so when I hit those pages, those are probably the most powerful
Hmm.
is, which agent would you rather hire? No one's going to tell you they want to hire the agent that got $15,000 less and took twice as long to sell.
Hmm.
So I have like 3 pages in there. When I do happen to pick up a listing that's expired or something identical is on the market, I add one of those pages to my book.
So what other, we talked a little bit about setting yourself apart, both online and presentation. Is there any other piece of advice that you want to give to either newer agents or experienced agents that you've kind of come across in your, what is it, 15, 16, 17 years now in the business?
The business is always changing.
Yep.
I mean, I've seen huge differences in 15 years, and sometimes I get caught short in not realizing the business is changing, and the business is ever changing. Uh,
Yep.
what worked 10 years ago doesn't necessarily work today. I've gotten stuck in that myself, and I'm actually in a retool process right now. So
So, you said, in some cases you've gotten a little bit stuck. Did you notice, were you aware of the changes, or did they just hit you and you were like, oh man, I didn't even see that coming?
um, I think the big problem for me was I got so caught up in short sales, I wasn't paying attention to everything else because that consumed all my time. I was running 20 to 30 short sales at any given time, and
Yep.
several years. And believe me, that sucks time out of you. And I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't paying attention to what was going on. And really, I should have been. And again, I think every agent runs into this. We talked about the teams is sometimes you get stuck with all your eggs in one basket because you're trying to do so many things and you really need to have a bunch of baskets going. And I always do it. I get, this is working for me, and I put 90% of my eggs in one basket just because there's not enough hours in the day sometimes. And
So if you were to flash back 3 or 4 years, what other baskets would you have been putting your eggs into?
I was ignoring my internet presence during that time period.
Hmm.
And the internet changed. Don't forget Zillow only came around in 2006, and even mobile phones 2007, or I should say smartphones. And I kind of ignored some of that. I ignored some of that, and the not that I didn't have a smartphone, but the impact that it had on the business. Um,
So the advice would be to make sure you've got a lot of marketing funnels set up, right? To capture not just
exactly.
one sort of business. Yeah. And I think that's key. I mean, I think everybody went, you're talking about short sales a few times. I think everybody went through that phase with the short sales where they were just running and gunning and getting as many of them under contract as possible. I do remember the day it pretty much changed. It seemed like it happened really quickly over the course of like 6 to maybe 12 months. All of a sudden it went from everything being a short sale to now there were like, not that there was none, but the volume went down dramatically.
I mean, whoa, it took me till end of 2015, beginning of 2016 to clean up most of my short sales
Yeah.
that were, and there was still, I mean, I still have short sales that come in now, which I'm happy. I'm happy to have a couple. I just don't right now I don't want 20 of them.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, it was great having you on. I want to thank our guest Kevin Vitali. Uh, Thank you, Kevin, for jumping on today.
Okay, well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, guys, and this is Tom Caffarello signing off for the Massachusetts Real Estate Agent Mastermind podcast. I will talk to you guys next week. Thank you.